A cold Starbucks cup trembled in Dana's hand as her phone buzzed again and again against the plastic table. The security guard's voice cracked over the lobby intercom, saying her name like it was an accusation. Dana looked through the glass doors and saw Mr. Reed, the janitor, standing with his mop bucket beside him, shoulders tight, while 3 executives stared at him like he'd dragged mud across their clean carpet. Dana's throat went dry when she realized the missing envelope the CFO was shouting about was sitting right there in the open, half hidden under a stack of printed reports.
Dana's eyes flicked to Mr. Reed's face.
He wasn't begging. He wasn't arguing. He was just tired. And Dana felt something in her chest snap the moment she heard someone laugh and say, "Of course it was him." Dana Price lived in a 1-bedroom apartment in South Philly where the heater clicked like it had a grudge, and the upstairs neighbor paced at 2 a.m. like sleep was optional. She worked in HR at a mid-size logistics company that liked to call itself a family in meetings, then laid people off by email when the quarter looked ugly. Dana wasn't bitter in the dramatic way people expected. She was tired in the quiet way that built up over years. Tired from pretending she wasn't checking her bank app before buying groceries. Tired from smiling when co-workers joked about how everyone's replaceable. Tired from coming home to a place that felt more like a charging station than a home. Her mornings started the same, a shower that never stayed hot long enough, a travel mug that leaked if she didn't twist the lid just right, and a bus ride where she stared at her reflection in the dark window and tried to remember when she last felt excited about anything. She had friends, technically. A few group chats that lit up with memes and birthday reminders. A mom who called every Sunday and asked if she was eating enough vegetables, then paused a beat too long before asking if she was dating anyone. Dana always gave the same answer, half joke, half truth. "I'm dating my job, Mom." It wasn't only the job. It was the whole shape of her life. The way everything cost more every month while her paycheck stayed the same. The way she felt like she was constantly catching up to a moving target. The way her last relationship had ended, not with cheating or screaming, but with a calm conversation in a kitchen where the lights were too bright. Her ex had said, "I just don't think you're here anymore." Dana had wanted to argue, but she'd heard herself answer, "I know," like she'd been waiting for someone else to say it first. The office sat near the edge of Center City, all glass and gray carpet and conference rooms named after inspirational words like momentum. Dana's desk was wedged near a row of printers that jammed at the worst times. Her boss, Marla, was the kind of woman who wore crisp blazers and used phrases like, "lean into it," while sending Slack messages at midnight. Marla wasn't cruel exactly. She just treated people like they were pieces on a board. Dana had learned to be careful around her, to keep her voice steady, to never show too much emotion. HR was supposed to be the safe place. Most days, Dana felt like she was the messenger nobody wanted. In the middle of all that, there was Mr. Reed. He was the janitor on their floor, a black man in his late 30s or early 40s, always in a navy work shirt with a stitched name patch that said Reed. He moved like someone trying not to take up space. He cleaned quietly, efficiently, never making eye contact for too long. People treated him like part of the building, like the elevator music. They stepped around his mop without saying "excuse me." They left trash on top of full bins and walked away like it was normal. Dana noticed because she couldn't not notice. She had grown up with a father who worked maintenance at a public school and came home smelling like disinfectant, his knuckles cracked from cold weather. Her dad had taught her to look people in the eye, to say thank you like you meant it, to never act like someone was beneath you just because your job title sounded nicer. At first, Dana's acknowledgement of Mr. Reed was small. A nod.
A morning.
Once, when her printer jammed right before a meeting, she crouched on the floor in a skirt trying to pull out a shredded paper strip. Mr. Reed had walked past, paused, then handed her a small pair of work gloves from his pocket without saying anything. She put them on, surprised, and the gloves smelled faintly like lemon cleaner. After she fixed the jam, she looked up and said, "Thank you." He only nodded once, like he wasn't used to it being said out loud. Over time, Dana started catching details. He refilled the soap dispensers before they were empty. He wiped down door handles like he was protecting someone. He stayed late on Fridays when everyone else ran out the second it hit 5. Once, Dana worked past 9 finishing a report Marla had needed yesterday. The office was nearly empty, the kind of quiet that made every keyboard click sound too loud. Dana stood at the break room sink, rinsing her mug, when she heard humming in the hallway. Not loud, not for attention.
Just a steady, soft tune that made the space feel cold.
She glanced out and saw Mr. Reed pushing his cart, shoulders a little looser, like he forgot for a second he was being watched. Dana wanted to talk to him more, but there was something about him that made her hesitate. Not because he was unapproachable. Because he seemed careful. Like someone who'd learned the hard way that kindness could be misunderstood or punished. The day everything shifted started like any other Tuesday. Dana had barely slept. Her rent was due in 3 days, her car needed new tires, and her checking account looked like a bad joke. She walked into the lobby balancing her phone, her coffee, and her ID badge, already bracing for the day. The elevator opened to their floor, and she stepped out into chaos. A cluster of executives stood near the reception area. The CFO's face was red, and he was holding an empty manila folder like it was evidence.
Security have close, uneasy.
Marla stood slightly behind the CFO, lips pressed tight, eyes flicking around like she was calculating how this would reflect on her. And in the center of it all stood Mr. Reed, next to his cleaning cart, hands at his sides.
Not defensive.
Not angry. Just frozen, like the room had decided what he was before he said a word. Dana stopped walking. She watched the CFO jab a finger toward Mr. Reed and say something about access and people who don't belong near sensitive documents. Dana felt heat rise in her face. She saw co-workers nearby pretending not to watch while still watching. She saw someone smirk, like it was entertaining. Then Dana's eyes landed on the front desk. Right there, half tucked beneath a stack of printed shipping invoices, sat the missing envelope. It was in plain sight, like the room itself was daring anyone to notice. Dana's phone buzzed again, a bank alert this time. Low balance. Her stomach clenched the way it always did when she saw that message. But instead of shrinking, something in her steadied. She set her coffee down. She walked forward, and every step felt louder than it should have in that quiet, expensive lobby. She picked up the envelope, held it up, and said, "It's right here." Everyone turned.
The CFO blinked, caught off guard.
Marla's eyes widened like she wanted to stop time. Security shifted uncomfortably. Dana's voice didn't shake, even though her hands did. "He didn't take anything," she said, and then, looking directly at the CFO, "You accused him without even checking." For a second, nobody spoke. Mr. Reed's gaze lifted toward Dana, and in his eyes was something heavier than gratitude. It was the look of someone who was used to being the easiest person to blame. Dana could feel her heart pounding. She knew what she was doing. She knew how offices worked. She knew Marla would remember this. She knew standing up like this had consequences. But she also knew she couldn't unsee what she'd just witnessed. And as the CFO reached for the envelope, trying to laugh it off like a mistake, Dana caught the smallest change in Mr. Reed's posture. Like he was holding himself together with both hands. Like he'd been one bad day away from breaking. Dana swallowed and made a choice in the open. She didn't step back. She stayed right there beside him. The lobby cleared out faster than Dana expected. Executives retreated to glass offices. Security drifted away once the CFO muttered something about a misunderstanding. Marla gave Dana a look that mixed warning and disappointment, then followed the others without saying a word. Within minutes, the floor slipped back into its usual hum, like nothing had happened at all. Except it had. Dana stood there, unsure what to do next, her heart still racing. Mr. Reed picked up his mop handle and adjusted the strap on his cart like it was just another task on a long list. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The silence felt heavier now than the shouting had. "Thanks," he said finally. His voice was calm, but quiet in a way that suggested he didn't want to be overheard. Dana nodded. "I'm sorry that even happened." He gave a small shrug. "It usually does." That answer landed harder than Dana expected. She wanted to say something that fixed it, something that sounded strong or comforting, but nothing came. Instead, she blurted out, "Do you want some coffee? I mean, I already paid for it. It's just sitting there." She gestured toward the Starbucks cup she'd abandoned on the table. It had gone lukewarm, a thin ring of condensation circling the base. Mr. Reed hesitated. Dana could see him weighing the offer, not just the coffee but what it meant. Finally, he nodded. "Sure. Thanks." They sat at the small table near the windows, the city moving outside like a distant backdrop. Dana noticed how carefully he held the cup, like he didn't want to spill a drop. She introduced herself properly this time. "I'm Dana. From HR. "I know," he said, and then added quickly, "I mean, I see you around." "Yeah," she said. "Same." They drank in silence for a few seconds. Dana became painfully aware of how loud the ice was clinking in her cup. She cleared her throat. That shouldn't have happened. What they did. He nodded once. "It happens everywhere. You learn not to react too much. Makes it easier for everyone else." "For everyone else," Dana repeated, quietly. He looked at her then, really looked at her, like he was deciding whether she meant what she said earlier. "Most people don't want trouble. I get it." "I wasn't trying to make trouble," Dana said. "I just couldn't let it go." Something shifted in his expression. Not a smile exactly. More like relief, mixed with caution. "That's rare." They talked for 10 minutes, maybe 15. About nothing important on the surface. The weather.
The basket vending machine on the third floor. The Phillies losing again.
But under it all, Dana felt a strange sense of ease, like she didn't have to perform. Mr. Reed listened without interrupting. When he spoke, it was thoughtful, measured, like he chose his words carefully. He told her his first name was Marcus. After that day, they didn't suddenly become close. There were no dramatic lunches or long conversations. Just small moments that stacked up. A "Hey, Dana," in the hallway. A shared look when someone complained about the thermostat. Once, when Dana stayed late again, she found a sticky note on her desk that said, "Printer on 4 jams less. Use that one." No signature, but she knew. Dana noticed her own resistance as the weeks passed. Every time she felt herself looking forward to seeing Marcus, she shut it down. She told herself she didn't need another connection to complicate things. She reminded herself of the power imbalance, of office gossip, of how easily good intentions could get twisted. She had learned to keep her life small because small felt safer.
At home, the loneliness pressed in harder.
Her apartment felt quieter now that winter had settled in. She ate dinner standing up most nights, scrolling through her phone without really reading anything. One evening, her mom called and asked, "Are you happy, Dana?" Just like that, no warning. Dana stared at the sink while the question hung between them. "I don't know," she said honestly. Work didn't get easier. Marla stopped including Dana in certain meetings. Not openly hostile, just a subtle shift. Dana felt it. She replayed the lobby moment in her head at night, wondering if she'd crossed a line she couldn't uncross. One morning, she found Marcus in the break room, staring at the coffee machine like it had personally offended him. "It finally broke," he said. Dana laughed, surprised at how natural it felt. "It was overdue." He shook his head. I keep telling them.
Preventive maintenance saves money.
Story of my life, Dana said. On impulse, she added, there's a decent place across the street. If you've got time.
Marcus hesitated again.
That same pause. Then he checked his watch. I've got 10 minutes. They walked out together, the cold air sharp against their faces. The coffee shop was crowded, all laptops and earbuds and people avoiding eye contact. They stood in line, shoulders almost touching. Dana felt strangely nervous, like this was something bigger than it was. Over coffee, Marcus mentioned he'd moved to Philly a few years back. Didn't say much about why. Dana didn't push. She talked about her job, more honestly than she usually did.
About feeling stuck.
About wanting to matter without burning everything down.
Marcus listened, nodding slowly.
You did matter that day, he said. Whether you meant to or not. Dana swallowed. I don't always feel brave. Most people aren't, he said. They're just tired of being quiet. That sentence followed her back to the office. It echoed during meetings. It sat with her on the bus ride home. Dana realized how hard she'd been fighting herself, how much energy it took to stay numb. Still, she didn't let herself hope. Hope had let her down before. She kept her guard up, even as she started leaving her desk a little earlier just in case she'd run into Marcus on his rounds. She didn't know it yet, but that small choice, that openness she was resisting, was quietly pushing her toward a moment she couldn't avoid. The email came in at 8:17 a.m., subject line vague enough to raise Dana's pulse before she even opened it. Quick sync. From Marla. No emojis.
No exclamation point.
Dana stared at her screen while the office woke up around her.
Chairs rolling.
Someone laughing too loud near the copier. Her coffee sat untouched, already cooling. She knew that tone. She'd written it herself to other people before. Dana closed her eyes for a second, then replied, Sure, because that was what you did. You showed up. You stayed professional. You didn't flinch. Marla's office smelled like citrus cleaner and expensive candles. She gestured for Dana to sit, folding her hands together in that careful HR-adjacent way Dana recognized too well. The conversation was calm. Almost kind. That was the worst part. Marla talked about team alignment and optics. About how the incident in the lobby had made some people uncomfortable. About how Dana needed to be more mindful of boundaries. No one said Marcus's name. No one had to.
Dana listened, nodding at the right moments.
She felt detached, like she was watching herself from the outside. When Marla finally paused, Dana said quietly, I told the truth. I know, Marla said. But truth isn't the only thing that matters here. Dana walked out 10 minutes later with a tight smile and a hollow feeling in her chest. Back at her desk, she opened a spreadsheet and stared at it without seeing a single number. Her phone buzzed in her pocket. A text from her bank. Overdraft fee pending. That did it. The weight she'd been carrying, the careful balance of being agreeable and invisible, slipped just enough for everything underneath to spill out. Dana stood up abruptly and walked toward the stairwell, not trusting herself to speak to anyone. She pushed through the heavy door and sat on the concrete steps, head in her hands. She felt foolish. For thinking one moment of decency wouldn't cost her anything. For pretending she could keep doing this forever. For letting herself care. She didn't hear the door open at first. You okay? Marcus's voice was low, concerned. Dana looked up, startled. He stood a few steps above her, cleaning gloves tucked into his back pocket. His expression shifted when he saw her face. I'm fine, she said automatically, then let out a shaky laugh. Sorry. I didn't mean. You don't have to explain, he said, sitting down a careful distance away. I just saw you rush out. Dana wiped her eyes with the back of her hand, embarrassed. They talked to me. About the lobby thing. He nodded slowly. I figured they might. They didn't say it outright, she said. But I know what it means. I'm sorry, Marcus said, and the way he said it wasn't dismissive or pitying. It was grounded, like he understood consequences intimately. Dana took a deep breath. I keep telling myself to stay quiet.
To keep my head down.
And every time I do, it feels like I'm shrinking.
Marcus leaned back against the wall. That's because you are.
She looked at him, surprised. I've been shrinking for a long time, he continued. You learn how to make yourself smaller so the world doesn't feel threatened. But it takes something from you. There was a pause. The hum of the building filled the space between them. Dana asked the question before she could talk herself out of it. Why are you here? Marcus didn't answer right away. He stared at the opposite wall, jaw tightening slightly. I needed to see something for myself, he said finally. See what? What people do when they think no one important is watching. Dana frowned. That sounds heavy. He gave a small, humorless smile. It is. She waited, heart thudding. Part of her expected a dramatic reveal, some explanation that made everything make sense. Instead, Marcus shook his head. I'm not ready to explain it, he said. And I won't if it puts you in a weird position. Dana nodded, even though curiosity burned in her chest. Okay. They sat there longer than either of them should have. Dana felt calmer, but also unsettled. Like she'd stepped closer to something she couldn't see clearly yet. That night, Dana didn't go straight home. She walked through her neighborhood instead, hands in her coat pockets, the city lights blurring at the edges. She thought about her life. About how safe it looked from the outside. About how small it felt on the inside. She thought about Marcus's words. About shrinking. When she got home, she opened her laptop and stared at her resume. She hadn't updated it in years. The cursor blinked like it was waiting for permission. At work the next day, something else changed. The way people spoke around Marcus shifted. Not better. Worse. Like they felt validated by silence. Dana watched it happen, the casual dismissals, the jokes said just loud enough to hear. She felt sick. Later that afternoon, she overheard two managers talking near the elevators. One of them laughed and said, "At least janitorial is cheap. You could replace any of them tomorrow."
Dana's hands curled into fists.
She found Marcus in the supply room, restocking paper towels. "Can we talk?" she asked. He glanced at her face and nodded. "I don't think I can keep doing this," she said. "Watching.
Staying quiet."
It's starting to feel like I'm complicit."
Marcus studied her.
"You don't owe anyone anything," he said. "Especially not at the cost of yourself."
What if he lost my job?
Dana asked. The fear finally cracked through. Marcus's answer surprised her. "Then you'll lose it knowing who you are." Dana swallowed hard. That was it. The moment of truth she'd been circling for years. The realization that staying safe wasn't the same as being okay. The next week, the company held a town hall. Talk of values. Of inclusion. Dana sat in the back, heart pounding. When the floor opened for comments, she stood. Her voice shook at first, then steadied. She spoke about respect. About accountability. About how words on slides meant nothing if actions didn't match. She didn't name names. She didn't need to. The room was silent when she finished. Dana sat down, hands trembling, knowing she'd crossed a line she couldn't step back over. Across the room, Marcus met her eyes and gave a single nod. Dana didn't know what would happen next. Only that she finally felt like she was standing at her full height. The fallout didn't come all at once. It arrived in pieces, stretched out over weeks, the way real consequences usually do. After the town hall, no one clapped. People avoided Dana's eyes as they filed out, some stiff with discomfort, others thoughtful in a way that didn't quite reach their faces. Marla didn't say anything that day. Or the next. Dana went back to her desk and did her work with a strange calm, like she'd already accepted whatever was coming. At home, the anxiety crept in during the quiet hours. She lay awake listening to the radiator knock and wondered if she'd been reckless. She replayed her words, searching for something she could have softened, something she could have kept to herself. Her bank account didn't care about integrity. Rent still needed to be paid.
Fair wasn't abstract anymore.
It had numbers attached to it. Marcus didn't bring up the town hall. He didn't thank her again. He didn't make promises. If anything, he seemed more careful now, like he didn't want to pull her any deeper into something she hadn't chosen. They still shared small moments. Passing greetings. A brief exchange near the elevators. One afternoon, Dana found a folded note on her desk.
No name.
Just a sentence written neatly. You didn't imagine it.
What you saw matters.
She held on to that longer than she expected. 2 weeks later, Dana was called into a different meeting. This time, it wasn't Marla. It was a video call with someone she didn't recognize, a man in his 50s with gray hair and a neutral expression. Legal was present. So was an outside consultant. They asked questions. About the lobby incident. About daily interactions. About patterns. Dana answered honestly, careful not to dramatize anything. She stuck to facts. She noticed Marla's jaw tighten when certain examples came up. When the call ended, no one told Dana what it meant. But she walked out knowing something had shifted. The changes weren't dramatic. There was no public apology. No big announcement. But policies were reviewed. Training became mandatory. A few managers stopped showing up. Quietly. Without explanation. Marcus was still there. That surprised Dana more than anything. One evening, as winter started to break and the light lingered longer outside the office windows, Marcus asked if she wanted to walk for a bit after work. Not coffee. Not dinner. Just a walk. They stepped out onto the sidewalk together, the city softer than usual, like it was catching its breath. They walked without rushing, hands in their pockets, passing closed storefronts and buses hissing at the curb. I owe you an explanation, Marcus said after a while. Dana didn't respond right away. She let him set the pace. I didn't take this job because I needed it, he said. Not financially. She stopped walking and looked at him. He met her gaze, steady. I'm not a janitor by necessity, he continued. I'm one by choice. At least for now.
Danagwatid, Tudin.
My family sold a company a few years ago, Marcus said.
Logistics software.
I was involved from the beginning. I stepped away after the sale. Took time off. Thought money would fix more than it did. Dana felt a strange mix of disbelief and clarity. It didn't feel like a twist. It felt like a missing puzzle piece snapping into place. So you were watching, she said quietly. Yes, he admitted. I wanted to see how people treat someone when there's nothing to gain.
How systems work when power looks invisible.
And what did you find? Dana asked.
Marcus exhaled.
Exactly what you saw. They stood there, the truth hanging between them, heavy but not flashy. Dana didn't feel betrayed. She felt tired. And oddly relieved. Why tell me now? She asked. Because you didn't act differently when you thought I was nobody, he said. And because I didn't want to build anything with you on half-truths. Dana absorbed that. I'm not looking to be rescued, she said. I know, Marcus replied. That's kind of the point. Their relationship didn't turn into a movie montage. They didn't rush. They talked more. Sometimes about money, sometimes about childhood, sometimes about nothing at all. Dana kept her job. For now. She updated her resume anyway. Marcus didn't quit the next day. He finished what he started. When he eventually left, it was quiet. No announcement.
Just a good card on the break room table.
Dana stayed. Months later, Dana sat in a different coffee shop, one closer to her apartment, her laptop open but untouched. Her phone buzzed with a text from Marcus asking if she wanted to come over for dinner. Just dinner.
Nothing fancy.
She smiled, a small one, not dramatic. Her life wasn't fixed. She still worried about money. She still had days where work felt heavy. But she felt solid in a way she hadn't before. Like she knew where her line was now. Like she trusted herself to stand on it. As Dana closed her laptop and headed out into the evening, she thought about how easily she could have stayed quiet. How easy it would have been to look away. And how one choice, made without knowing the outcome, had slowly changed the shape of her life. Not perfectly, but honestly.